Yes. Awesome.
Okay, thanks, Jerry.
Okay, we'll start.
Okay. Hello, everyone, to this session titled Introduction to SSIS. My name is Nabil Dirham, and I work in the database world, as Jerry said, mainly with SQL Server, a little with Oracle databases. I also work with the .NET framework. This has given me a really good idea about how developers think when they deal with the databases. And that's why I think you will like this session, because if I'm not mistaken, most of you are developers. You've worked with SQL Server just as a backend database, and you've been hearing about this. At the time, people were having many trouble, or a lot of trouble working with it, including me. So in SQL Server 2005, Microsoft introduced the SSIS. Now, make sure to not fall into this mistake. It's not just an upgrade. SSIS is a complete rewrite for it started from scratch. I mean, Microsoft literally started from scratch with this product to build something that was more integrated, especially with the .NET framework. So,
Muted.
If you're a developer, if you worked with the .NET framework, any the Visual Studio interface, then believe me, working with SSIS is a piece of cake for you. It's just to understand the concepts behind the SSIS. So, the differences are large between SSIS and DTS. I will not go into this area. Just know that, of course, some people are also interested in upgrading. I mean, the reason I'm giving you or telling you about DTS is because you might face this case. Some clients or some customers have their own DTS packages and they want to upgrade it to SSIS. It's not as simple as it seems, since it's, as I told you, a complete rewrite. This is the reason why I'm telling you about the DTS. Anyway, if you have the chance to build from scratch with the SSIS, then that's the best for you. Okay. The main purpose of the SSIS is something called extract, transform, and load, ETL. You will be hearing this term a lot. And you will hear people saying that SSIS is just for these three. And to a large extent, this is true. This is the main reason. I mean, I want to move data from one database to another database. And in the process, I want to transform. I mean, a good example of transforming data. Extracting is simple. Just get the data from the source, and loading it means putting it somewhere else. But transform is in the middle. An example would be to get from the old database a field called gender, let's say. In this database, it was working with a very old application. They stored the gender field as a single character, M or F. If you're working databases, you've seen this a lot. Now, when moving your data from the old database to a new application, you want to transform this into a bit column, 0 or 1 for female or male. This is what we mean by transform, changing the data at the same time you're moving it. So this is the main purpose of SSIS. But there are other things you can do with SSIS, mainly automating tasks. I mean, for example, you want to do a backup every Monday. I mean, you're probably thinking of, I can create a job in SQL Server to back up the database, or a schedule to back up every week. But this is an example of something you can do with SSIS. You can modify data, like, for example, I want to increase the salary for everyone by 10%. And you can also work with cubes. I'm not going to discuss cubes at the moment, but if you're interested in going into the BI world, then definitely you need to know more about SSIS before doing so. The best thing, in my opinion, about SSIS is that it's well integrated with Visual Studio. Actually, it is a Visual Studio IDE. So you can work with SSIS graphically. You can, use your knowledge of C# and stuff to even work your code with it. I'll be discussing this more in the next slides, but just know about this. by the way, it's just a couple of slides I have to pass by and explain the things theoretically before showing you the actual thing. The first thing you will be hearing about is a package. Okay, why don't I just start with something to show you instead of you getting bored? I'll try creating something similar. This is SQL Server 2008 R2, but the same goes for 2005 and 2008. So this is an empty database. Nothing is there. Just created something from scratch. And what I'll do is, some of you will scream when seeing this. This is the Northwind database in Access, a very old thing. I still like that database. Anyway, so what I want to do right now is I want to import. Many of you will say I don't need the SSIS for that. There's a wizard that can import my data. But actually, this wizard will create an SSIS package for you. Now, package is the unit of work. I'll show you that in a minute. I think that's pretty simple, and I don't need to explain a lot, but I'll be choosing the data source as the Access database. And as you can see here, I already know the path to the Northwind database. So this is my source. Where do you want to put it? I want to put it in my local server, hence the dot. In which database? Yeah, in Rock's demo. So everything looks easy. I want to just copy one table, one entire table, instead of specifying a query. Usually, by the way, you should specify a query. It's one of the tips that you might be working on in the future. So I'm going to choose customers as an example, and I'll name it also customers once it reaches my SQL Server. Just preview to make sure everything looks fine. Yep, this is the table I'm looking for. So here's an interesting option. See, it's asking you, do you want me to save this as an SSIS package? Well, yes, please. You have two options here. You can either save it within SQL Server, which means that it will be secure inside the SQL Server databases itself, the database, and the NSDB probably. But the option I'm going to choose right now to make things easier for most of you since you are developers is the file system, which means just store it as a file. How do you want to protect it? Well, I can choose encrypt it with my user key, but remember, if you choose this option, this means that other users will not be able to open it. So if you're planning on copying it somewhere else, this could cause troubles. So I'm going with the encrypt all data with a password. So I'm just going to encrypt the package file with this very simple password. So next, where do you want to save this? Well, I'll call it import package, and I want to save it in the same folder called this folder. As you can see, the extension is DTSX. By the way, this is an XML file. I'll be discussing this more, but this is an XML file. So next, now if I click finish, it will run the package at the same time. If you remember, I choose here to run the package. So I want the package to run just to make sure everything is working fine. And yes, I have 91 rows transferred, so this means everything is working fine. Just refreshing, and here's the customers table. So this was a package. This is a classic example of using an SSIS, but the thing is, the wizard from SQL Server managed the creating stuff for me. But I want to show you this. Show you this in an ID, a separate ID. How do you manage the package? So to do that, you'll have to go into your SQL Server folder, and you will find something called SQL Server Business Intelligence Development Studio, or for short, BIDS. So simply just open that, and I know what some of you are thinking. This is 2008. Why am I not using 2010? Well, this is the